Hello, everyone.
Hi. How's everybody doing? Good. Oh, you're really good. Oh, I forgot. South by is a very polite crowd.
It's in the morning. It's
Yeah,
early in the morning.
it's so early in the morning.
Waking up.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Okay, Arlan, should we just get straight into it?
I would love to.
You know what? So I was thinking on the way here, I was like, where do we start this
Yeah.
conversation? And we actually met at the hotel yesterday. And one of the things that you told me, you said 10 years ago, at this time, you came to South by Southwest for the first time. Not as a speaker,
No.
as an attendee with your mom. So why don't you just take everyone back to that moment, explain where was Arlan Hamilton 10 years ago at South by Southwest?
Ooh. So 10 years ago, I didn't even have a ticket to South by at all because we didn't have any money. But we rented a car for a couple of days. And I don't know how, maybe a credit card or something. And we slept, my mom and I, who's here, we slept in the car in the very, very cold parking lot of a hotel so that I could just walk around South by and just maybe meet someone who could help with the work that I was doing. And that was 10 years ago to this month. And for the past 6 years, I've been a featured speaker at South by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Is that surreal for you? Like just knowing that where you started, and I'm sure there's people in the audience right now that are in a similar position of like, you're just trying to make something happen, you're looking for some inspiration and come in here, and now you're speaking in front of an audience here?
Yeah, I don't know if it's surreal, because the reason it's not surreal is that I feel very tethered, and not in a bad way, but very rooted in that part of my life, because it was up until I was 35 that I was in that situation, and I'm 44. So it's more than 75% of my life. More than, it's like 80% of my life was that way of being. So I don't feel so far removed from it. I think it's, I call it like a pendulum swing, and it's just about momentum. And I feel like I've been able to get a lot of momentum, and because of the way I think of that, I think anyone in this room can do the same thing. Yeah. Wherever you are now, you can swing to where you want to be.
You know, I love that you also give the context of your age at that time, because I think so often I hear it from people of like, is it too late? Yeah. You know, I'm like, it's gone, it's happened. Yeah. 35 is when you came here, and now you're doing what you're doing now.
And for some people, 35 is a baby. You know, like for some people that's like really silly to say, but for a lot of people, we have our quarter life crisis around 25. Then at 30, things get really weird too, and we feel like, I know for me specifically, I felt like I didn't feel like a failure because I never thought of those terms. I think that's how I have done well, is to not think of myself as a failure no matter what's going on. But I felt so behind. I felt so like, I'm an adult at 30. I'm an adult. I barely have a place to live, never have any money, and I can't do anything for anybody in my family. And I just felt so lost at that time. And I meet so many people, like, what, you're 27, right?
27.
And I'm just like thinking about, like, you could be my son, first of all. And second of all, like, you just, when people say, well, I'm out of time, or it's so late, and they're like 30 years old, or 35, or 40. Like, I think about Mark Cuban. I work with Mark Cuban. We have a multi-million-dollar joint venture, right? He's about 20 years older than I am, and he is living his best life. So I look forward to being that age. I don't like dread it. So if you're 25, if you're 30, if you're 40, if you're 50, like, you can still have the pendulum swing. Yeah.
And it's, I think the cool thing, and even me just knowing you, is from that moment of feeling lost in that time, we just think about all of the things that you've accomplished since then, right?
Yeah.
The multi-million-dollar fund, what you're doing with your content now. Talk to me about the fund, raising that amount of money, and then of course recently you made the decision to step back from that.
Yeah.
Talk to me just about that whole journey of that.
Yeah. So I started 10 years ago. That's why I was here at South by. I was looking to raise a fund that would invest in the less than 10% that got invested in at the time. And, you know, those numbers haven't changed too much relatively. But I was looking to invest in women, people of color, LGBTQ+. I identified it all as all three, still do. And I set out on this kind of almost impossible feat of going from being homeless on food stamps, barely making it, to raising $30 million. And the way that I did it, if anybody's interested, is I just did it, yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm interested, was one person at a time. It's a series of negotiations. And negotiations are conversations at the end of the day with other people. It's really it. It's either with one person or several people. And it is a transaction in a lot of ways, but it's a conversation and it's negotiation. And in any negotiation, you want both parties to win and feel like they've won. And that's what I learned over those years. So it was just, you know, one $25,000 check at a time, one $50,000 check at a time. So it took incredible amounts of no's and it took incredible amounts of meetings. But I eventually got to 30 million. Today we're raising a $200 million fund at Backstage, which is really awesome. And yeah, it's really great. And to your point of stepping down, so I worked on Backstage for 12 years. We've been official for 9.5, but I worked on it for 2.5 prior to that to get it started. And I found myself last year, after going through everything with COVID and going through 2 rounds of layoffs, and it seems like every time I'm at South by, I'm talking about a layoff, like a round of layoffs, but just going through everything and building it to 30 million and building it to a point where it can raise 200 million. We've invested in more than 200 companies. And we have, you know, 63 people have gone through our apprenticeship program. And one person said it was like graduating college, you know? And so I felt last year that I had taken it so far, but it had so far to go. And I wanted it to be run by people who were incredibly hungry, not thirsty, which is what I say. People who were just so passionate about it every single morning, like I was 10 years ago. And it does run you down when you're kind of carrying the weight of the world with you as you go, for many reasons. And then to be really honest, and I don't think it's a problem if there's an issue here, we'll talk about it. But to be really honest, when Trump was elected for the second time, I just thought I can't carry this burden on my own anymore. I felt betrayed and I felt disillusioned, but I also felt like all of that was going to go away. That was going to be fine. It was more like, oh, it's time for me to kind of live my life. I felt like I had lived to make a way for other people for 12 years. And so I said, okay, we're going to combine those things of me wanting to go out and spread my wings, but wanting to have Backstage have a great potential future for our investors, for our founders, for the people who are watching us. So I talked to my business partner, Brittany Davis, who has been at Backstage for 6 years, who is a partner. I talked to her and I said, is it okay if I step back and you step forward? And she was like, absolutely, I'm ready for it. And then we brought on more people, including a woman named Natalia, and then a woman named Kelly, who runs 360 Venture Collective. And they've essentially taken over the management, the three of them. And 360 has taken over the management of Backstage. And they will go off and turn it into something even greater. I am the largest stakeholder, so the largest LP, essentially, limited partner, and I'm also when it comes to the ownership of it, right, not by dollars, because that's Cuban. But I'm also, I lead the advisory council. So I bring opportunities in. I get to really talk to founders now, and the founders in our portfolio, I get to find out how they're doing, how their life is, rather than running every day. And I get to play a little bit and have my own companies.
Yeah, no, it's landed in a really nice place. You know what, I think about the you spoke about the adversity. And I think even it comes up again and again in your story.
Yeah.
And I even just think about the people in the audience. I think about my own story at certain points.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that period of just facing a lot of no's as you're building your fund. Just no, 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 no. Mm-hmm. And so I think
it's like a Destiny's Child song.
Yeah.
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 Now everybody's going to be thinking that the whole time.
Just start dancing right now. Just go. But I think to the person in the audience that like they're in that season, whether you're starting a business, whether you're applying for jobs, and it just feels like nothing is going your way. And so I want you to give just a word of advice, because you kept coming back after the no's, which is really what matters, right?
Yeah.
What kept you coming back? How did you keep coming back from the no?
The main thing that kept me coming back, even though I was getting so many no's, was that I far, far long ago stopped worrying about how it would benefit me to be successful at Backstage Capital, or for Backstage Capital to be successful. And I made it about who else could win, who else would benefit. Not just the people we invested in, but the people who saw themselves, and the people who felt seen, and the people who were inspired. And so anytime I would just get so down, I would think, okay, how many people are going to benefit from this? So that's what I say is, if you can make, this works in business too, if you can make someone else the hero in your story, then you'll never have to, like if you can make your customer the hero, you'll never have to worry about money again. Does that make sense? Because if you're constantly thinking of ways to benefit other people who are coming back to you for that service or that product or whatever it may be, then you'll just have this flywheel. And so that's what helped me. It also helped me to know from the very beginning, I knew that Backstage had to exist. I knew that it was right. I knew that it was wrong for white men to get all of the venture funding and angel funding in the country. It just didn't make any sense. And they knew it too, right? Most of our LPs are white men. They knew it too. So to have that kind of conviction, when you hear people say no, you think they're the ones who don't get it. And that's, I mean, look at your shirt. That's your brand. Stay delusional.
Stay delusional.
That's what it is. I've always talked about having a very healthy mix of delusion in the ingredients. Like I think you have to be delusional to get where. I think I said that in our interview that we have. We have a YouTube interview that has like 400,000 views. Yeah. But I think I did say that in the interview, that you have to be a little delusional or a lot. And so you have to kind of just barrel through anything that feels negative. Because the people who are telling you that it's not going to work, or that it doesn't work, or that's crazy, or that's stupid, what are they doing? What are they doing? We always talk about anybody who's doing that doesn't have, like anybody who's doing something doesn't have time to criticize you. But it's just true. It's like, what is the source? People come to me all the time and they say, well, this person, this investor told me that I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't go back to my roots. I shouldn't do this on a smaller scale. And I always ask the same question. Did they invest in you? No. So if they didn't give birth to you, they don't pay your rent, or they didn't invest in you, why are you taking their advice? You can hear them and use what you'd like, but why take their advice? So I heard so many people say, no, you can't, it's this, it's that. I had so many of those stories, so many. I had to write 2 books because I had so many of those stories. But I just said, oh, that's their bad.
You know what, you spoke about the thing that kept you going was almost that thought of like, who am I serving? Who are those people that I'm doing this for?
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you get this. I'm sure there's even people in the audience that have felt this. You want to start a business, or you want to start a side hustle, whatever the thing is, and there's that question of like, I don't know what to sell, or I don't know who my customer is, or who I'm doing this for. I think, to me, you've always been someone that's so mission-driven. So how can people start to go about that process of figuring out, like, who am I serving?
Yeah, and I am mission-driven, but I'm also a venture capitalist. So I'm also I think the time for us being polite about making money is far gone. I think, so I do care about people and I care about who I serve. But it's also about pricing yourself correctly, and it's also about making enough money so that you can do whatever you want with it, and then serve whomever you want in any way you want. But when it comes to like most people ask, like, what do I offer? It's a combination of things. So you want to find your unique value proposition, and that is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It evolves over time, but you essentially want to figure out a few things. You want to figure out, what do I enjoy doing? What am I good at? What do people ask me about, or ask me to come fix or come do, or ask for advice? That's always a great indicator. But also, what do I enjoy? Because people can ask you to do things and you can be really good at things, but you can be like, it can drain you fast, and that's not going to be sustainable. So you try to find that happy medium, and then you also think through, what does the market want? Is that something, if I take those two things, combine it, figure that out, is that something that people would actually pay for? And people like to get out of pain, whether that's physical pain or emotional pain or the pain of inconvenience. People like to get out of pain, so if you can help them get out of pain rather than go towards joy, you're gonna make money faster. So you both work, right? There's all kinds of companies that have done really well just finding joy. But if you can find a way to get people out of a certain pain, then you're 75% closer than you would be the other way around. And so you're finding these different pieces and you're putting them all together. And again, it's not an overnight, oh, I figured it out, I know, but you can get pretty close. And then it's really important, in my opinion, to put something out there, whether that's a digital product, whether that's your consultation, whether that's a do-it-for-you service. You're doing the thing that's the best way you can start if you're a beginner, is like, do something for someone else and charge them for it. Put that out there. Try to get paid for that. And then you'll learn by doing whether people want that or not, and if you enjoy it. If you don't put it out there, though, you'll never know, and then you'll be constantly stuck guessing and hoping and wondering why you don't have money. And this is, again, from someone who was broke for most of my life, and I figured this out.
Yeah. You know what, and we spoke about the transition from Backstage Capital. And I think one of the cool things, actually, observing your journey, you've had this opportunity to actually start teaching entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And business, and I'm sure there's people in the audience that have seen your YouTube and your Instagram. Talk to me about that shift. Like, what prompted you to be like, I'm gonna go all in on that? On like that teaching entrepreneurship, like seeing that hunger from people to start businesses?
Yeah, so I've always done that. I just did it with our portfolio companies. So I've always taught our portfolio companies at Backstage how to get more customers, what to offer, how to look at their offer and see if it's the right offer. All of that. I've always taught that, because once I learned it, I wanted more people to know about it. And then I thought, there's so many resources for our portfolio. We're going to have even more now with the transition. It's going to be amazing. I want this to get to more people. And I hadn't really taken YouTube seriously. I had thought about it and known it was something, but I always thought it was for like entertainers or for certain things. I just didn't think it was for like the educational pocket. For some reason, even though there's YouTube University is where people get most of their information. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So almost anything, and it's second to Google. So almost anything you want to learn, you can look it up. So it makes sense that doing an information channel is great. So I tried it for a while, for like a year, and it didn't, even though I had great content, it didn't really go anywhere. Because I made this big mistake that I think was a mistake. I paid for advertising. And I thought, if I can just get this great content in front of people, then they'll find it and they'll kind of come this way. When I stopped doing that, and when I stopped worrying about aesthetics, and I just popped up, opened my laptop, went on Zoom, wasn't even HD, and I just started talking to the camera and just giving my information and experience and knowledge, answering questions that have literally been asked of me and answering questions that I had and overcame. That's when, you know, tens of thousands of people per day started finding me. And I gained 100,000 subscribers in 6 months. You know, like from the end of July, or middle of July to the middle of January, I gained more than 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. You all watch me on YouTube? Y'all see me on YouTube? Go to it'saboutdamntime.com, and that now goes to my YouTube channel. It'saboutdamntime.com if you don't know it.
Yeah. You know what? I want to. I had to ask this.
Okay.
I had to ask you this. I wanted to. We spoke about the no's and that period of no's. I know even from your story, there was moments you're sleeping in your car. You're
Well,
sleeping
a rental, yeah.
Yeah, you're sleeping in San Francisco airport. I think there's so many people that are in that season of like, it just feels like it's not going their way.
Yeah.
What was that moment when it almost felt like you got to draw breath? Like there was that first breakthrough, that first yes, whether it was an LP investing in your fund.
Yeah.
That first like, okay, we're going somewhere.
There were a few little ones that really added up. I was still in dire straits at the time, but I remember when I saw that Stanford was doing a 2-week boot camp for VCs, I was in Pflugerville, actually, north of Austin, with my mom staying at an Airbnb that we were scraping together to be in. And I saw that that was happening, and it was so far removed from what I knew and understood, but I just knew I needed to go to Silicon Valley. I just knew I needed to be there. So getting into that, even though it was like $10,000 for me that I had to figure out how to pay, that I ended up paying. Getting into that was a moment of like hope. And then Chris Sacca, who was an investor, who invested in Uber and a lot of others, he gave like a $500 kickoff to like a crowdfund that I did to get in. Even, you know, I didn't raise the full 10, but I raised enough to get on a plane there. And so that was something. So I have to give them that shout out for sure. I have to give a shout out to Sam Altman. He helped in that as well. And so just like having these people know of me there was this moment. And then it was in September of 2015 that I got my first LP after almost 3 years of trying. Her name is Susan Kimberlin, and I met her at the Stanford boot camp. And for a few months, she didn't know I was homeless or anything, but we talked for a few months, and she gave me my first $25,000 to invest in someone else and my first $25,000 to invest in myself. And that kicked off millions and millions of dollars. And she said, I don't know what you're going to do, but I know you're going to do something special, and I want to see that happen. So she took that chance, and I talk about being somebody else's first yes. You know, you don't have to do things for millions of people or thousands of people, but if you can be one person's yes, I'll pay for you to be at this conference, or yes, I'll get you an LLC, or I'll teach you this, or I'll make this phone call. That is if we all did that, that's so much more powerful than some billionaire walking in and saying, let me just throw money at you.
Yeah, it's so good.
No shade to billionaires. all good, they're fine.
I love hearing it. I love hearing it. Okay, you know what? I'm really big on like, I want people to always walk away with something practical that they can do right after this. And so we spoke about your YouTube.
Yeah.
I was watching one of your videos on the flight on the way over here, and the teach, show, do framework.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that, I was like, that's it.
Cool.
We have to talk about that. So can you break that down for people, the teach, show, do framework? Teach, show, do.
So this, you can imagine that the number one question I get asked, well, is will you invest in me or will you pay my rent? That's the number one question I get asked. No to the second is the answer. But I also just get asked, like, how do I make money, like, now? Does anybody want to know how to make money now? Okay, you walked in saying yes. So, by the way, if you are in my inner circle or mastermind or all access, we have some reserved seats for you up here, just FYI. Okay, you can choose one of the three, in the next, let's call it this week, because you're at this conference right now, you want to enjoy yourself. You're going to choose teach, show, or do. Teach kind of makes sense. You're going to go back to the UVP we talked about, the unique value proposition. We're going to think through that a little bit. There's some questions you can ask that we talked about earlier. You're going to teach. So again, you're choosing between the three. You can teach something. Can I teach a 30-minute mini course that I can put online somewhere? There are multiple places you can put it online. Can I teach something? Can I, you know, do I already have something that I can bring back out of storage? The second is show. Show is, can I get on a Zoom or a Google Meet and walk people through that thing I taught? So again, you're choosing one of the three. So can I walk them through? So just think of any of your hobbies, any of your interests, any of your skills that you know. If you know how to use Canva, for instance, there are a lot of people who don't. They don't know the 10 hacks that you may know, et cetera. If you know something about accounting, if you know something about crocheting, go on and on here. And again, the more pain you can take someone out of, the better. The show is I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to do a 60-minute workshop, and you pay $10, $20 to be on the workshop, or you don't pay anything, so more people come to it, and then I'm going to make an offer to you later. And then this is a very shortened version of this, by the way. And then the do is do it for you. So there are multiple things that you could do for somebody. Take it off their plate, and they would just pay you to be out of that pain, or they're running. You're at South by, you have, I don't know how many, hundreds of speakers. It's already happening here, but you know, if you run into a speaker, hey, do you want me to run and get you coffee? Do you want me to follow you today while you're doing your thing? I can go get your coffee, I can get your lunch, I can make sure that this, and this happens, I can help you get to your next location. You know, not everybody is going to be able to do that. Not everybody's going to be able to like walk up to somebody and say that, and they're going to say yes. But listen, slept in a car to be here. Would do this today. I might even do this, like get like a film thing, like an undercover film thing, and just show you what I'm talking about. Because you don't have to have an audience to do this. So you think about the same topic, or the same interest, hobby, expertise, or just if you have an interest and not an expertise, but you're willing to learn about it. What do you do? Okay, I have an interest in this, but I don't know. I like photography, but I don't know exactly how to use this camera. I'm gonna get this old camera. I have $150, personally, old Minolta that I have, right? If with my $150 old Minolta from the pawn shop, I can go and I can book 10 engagement photos down at the lake if I want it bad enough, all right? If I make enough calls, if I make enough introductions. Again, for so many of us who consider ourselves introverted, but I want us to stop calling ourselves that. That's personal. You don't have to stop calling yourself that. But I think that we get ourselves in a box and we say, well, I'm introverted, so it won't work. Well, okay. You still allergic to money, or what are you doing here? Like, can you pretend, you know, Beyonce, what she does, she says that she does get nervous before she goes on stage. You did not ask any of this, but I'm gonna say it. She does get nervous when she goes on stage. So she turns herself into Sasha Fierce for 90 minutes, and she makes her millions of dollars. And then she goes back and she's like, oh, thank you. Can you fake it till you make it kind of thing? If it means I'm going to do this. And it doesn't mean to do that forever. You're thinking about, what can I do now? So for me, what game I would be playing, unless you were already compensated for being here from your company, is I would play a game of, how do I make my money back from being on this South by trip? How do I make my money back? Either now or when I get back home. It's a game. You know who else is playing a game of money? The most successful people you know. Most of them born on third base. No shade, but it's just truth. They're playing a game. When you start playing a game with this, things change. That's why I say be hungry, not thirsty. Don't come into it desperate. Don't come into it thirsty. Come into it, this is a game. They said no, oops, let me start over. So for some of us, it's like, oh, it's desperate times though, I gotta pay rent. Okay, has the way you've been doing it worked? Perhaps take my advice for a moment and see if that changes things.
I love that.
So anytime I'm stuck, I do that. I say, okay, what can I teach, show, or do?
Yeah, no, I think it's so good. How can I make my money back from my South by Southwest ticket?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And if you can do that once, you can do that 100 times. 100 times, and I'll come to you and ask you for advice. You know, it's just so true. It's just so true. We are told things, we are assuming things about ourselves, we are making stuff up about ourselves, all of that. And again, it's okay. But we can right now, to yourself, nobody has to hear it. You can say, oh, that's changing. You know, how many times have you said, I'm bad at, or I'm not good at that? How many times have you said that to you? Oh, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at this. I'm not good on camera, so I can't do a YouTube channel. Even though YouTube pays both of us thousands of dollars a month to post. And it's free to start and can be done on a phone if you really want to. So if I'm sitting in the audience, or if I'm sitting here, and I'm like, oh, I'm not good on camera. I don't like the sound of my voice. Oh, I don't. Blah, blah, blah. But on the other side of all of that rejection of myself could potentially be money that I make by doing something I enjoy or come to enjoy. Maybe I'll just try it. And maybe in a month it didn't work, and I'll go back to kind of sitting here and being sad for myself. You know? Yeah. Like it's a little bit of tough love, but I could go much higher on the tough love scale. I can go much higher. This is like the softest tough love you're gonna get from me.
Yeah. You know, can we talk about decisions for just a second?
Yeah.
Let's talk about decisions, because I think when you make decisions and you commit to the decision, things start to change. Your life starts to change. That's what I've seen. And so here's the thing that I wanted to know from you. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that hear this and they hear what you're saying, or they listen to entrepreneurship, self-improvement content, and they're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start the business, I'm gonna put out the offer, I'm gonna start publishing content on the internet. And then it's like, okay, what's the thing I'm gonna do? What's the offer? What's the skill?
Yeah.
And I know for so many people, I felt this when I was working, when I had a marketing job. We have so many skills, right? I can do marketing, I can do project management, I can do video, I can do editing. And so that decision of like, okay, this is the one thing I'm gonna sell. This is the one thing I'm gonna do. How does someone come to that? Because I see that causing a lot of procrastination, a lot of paralysis for people.
Yeah, you don't have to make a decision today that you have to stick to for the rest of your life, or even for months or a year. Earlier, I talked about putting something out to market, putting something out there, so that not only you can hopefully make money from it, but you get that feedback. That if you don't get the feedback and the experience and oh, I shouldn't touch that hot stove, then you won't evolve. So you make a decision based on 80% knowing it's the right decision. As simple as that. You don't wait for a perfect decision. You make a decision, and you say, let's see what happens. Think of it as like a science project, some sort of experiment. I'm going to try this. I think this is the right direction. I'm going to try it. I'm going to take the good parts from it, the good feedback, the things that I enjoyed, a combination of that. I'm going to learn, oh, I'm not good at this today, or oh, I don't like that today. And I'm going to maybe cut that out of the next iteration. You can do a lot of A/B testing. So you may have one way of doing things, and you say, let me make a variation to that over here. So it could be on pricing, it could be on, maybe I'll do a lot of show, and then every once in a while, for the 10th person, I'll offer a do-it-for-you service and see if they take that, and even though it costs like 10 times more. Like you test, you're constantly in the lab, and you don't have to do that forever, but that's how you get to a decision. Because honestly, I was thinking about our conversation about your merch line, and you have such a high standard for, you ultimately, I think, want your customer and your viewer to have the best.
A perfect experience.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think that that's what the designers, the best designers are that way. But they did start by putting something out there, and so I think that your way, I was thinking about this overnight, I think your way is the right way, and I think my way is the right way, and I think there's some combination of the two. It's like you should be on this mission for near perfection, not perfection, but near perfection. It should be like this quality that you feel proud of, but in that process, can we start at 80% and say, oh, like the sleeves are something, I'm gonna change the sleeves in the next iteration, or the color. So people are asking me for this and that. I'm telling all your business, but I know, yeah.
Exposing me right now.
But I just think, just as an example, I meet some people, and I meet them, and then I see them the next year at the same event or the same this or that, and I say, how's it going? They'll tell me the same story they told me the year prior about how they couldn't do something. And I'll ask them, why? What's going on? Well, I had to wait for this, or I had to wait for that, or I didn't get any investors, and I'm like, a year? That's 12 months. That's 52 weeks. That's 52 different iterations you could have done. A/B tests you could have done. If you do 52 A/B tests in a row, don't you think something's gonna work? Or at least you'll figure out, this isn't for me. Let me go over here. Like, I have a backup plan. Everybody have a backup? And my backup plan is I'm gonna work at the movie theater. Get to see movies for free. I like popcorn. And I can tear a ticket, and I can do the cashier stuff. So if the 52 iterations don't work, you got your backup plan. Get your backup plan together. Okay. Yeah. It's said from a person without children.
I love it. Okay. You know what? We spoke about perfectionism. And I know I've definitely done that. I did that yesterday when we spoke.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have said that, like, no, I'm just a perfectionist. That's why it hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
Perfectionist.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about something else which I know holds people back. And that is the fear of failing in public.
Uh-huh.
That is the fear of, I'm going to start the thing, I'm going to post about it on my Instagram, on my Twitter, on my LinkedIn, and then it's not going to work out, and everyone's going to see it, and it's going to be humiliating.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? How does one get past that? Because it feels so real, like everyone's going to see it.
Everyone's going to see it. You are going to fail in public at some point. Okay, we're done? Good? Do you know how many times I've failed, quote unquote, failed in public? How many times I've been embarrassed in public? Are you kidding me? I started a water brand called Yacht Water. And I went out for the trademark. And I raised for it. I printed thousands of cans for it. And we lost the trademark war in the United States. So I had to tell 500 and some people that we didn't have the trademark for the thing they invested in. I also had to destroy the cans. And I had to do all of this in front of the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people watching me online who I bragged about it. Spoiler alert, we are trademark pending in 30 plus countries. So we're good. But for several months, anybody who doesn't like the sound of my voice or thinks that I'm a jerk or thinks that I'm this or that or a fraud or anybody had and did have plenty of space to say something. I talked about it so openly and for 7 months I talked about it with our investors. I put it out there because guess what? Every single one of them has had something that's happened. And if I was afraid to fail in public, I would not be sitting here right now. I would be homeless still. And I don't want to get too weird, but if I were still alive, I would be homeless. most likely. I would be a drunk, because I was a drunk until I was 36. I would be just devastated by the world, and anything could push me over. I don't care. I have, and not everybody's going to get to this point overnight. It is a muscle. It is an experience that happens. It's okay if you feel this way now, but you don't have to stay that way. Go to the root of why you would feel embarrassed by failure. Ultimately, it's because, oh, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to feel like I said one thing and then the other thing happened. I don't want people to know that there's a weakness that I have. I don't want certain people to see me who I look up to, or I think that they're cool and they see me. Like, there's so many cool people who see me fail, who I think they're cool and they see me fail. But I go back to, what do we say? You know that phrase, the grass is always greener on the other side? Let me tell you why the grass is always greener on the other side. You ready? Because there's manure on that side. We don't know what people go through, the best of us. Now, we know some of the people who are the richest, we know what they're going through because they're showing their whatever out everywhere. But we don't know what people are going through. So when I go out there and I say, I messed up, what do I get? Instead of like pitchforks and angry, how dare you take my $200 and ruin it? I get, oh my God, thank you. That's going to help me with my trademark. I better go and get my trademark faster. I better do a better job because you messed up. Let me learn from that. That's what I got. Dozens of that. Dozens of, oh, that's okay. I wouldn't even known to do a trademark, or I wouldn't even known how to start a beverage line. How did you even do that? So when people are concerned about failing in public, go back to the root of why you would be concerned, and go back to what would happen if it does work, or if this failure leads to the next success. Which is more important? The cool person that you think is cool but probably is not, thinking that you're cool but probably still talking crap about you behind your back, no matter how well you do, or you getting this out to the world, to the people who need it?
It's interesting, actually. I remember a conversation with my mom, and the word that she told me, she said, everyone that you admire, they did the thing scared. So the athlete that you see on TV that dominates on the court, before he stepped out, he was probably nervous, he was scared. The musician, the actor, they were scared every single time.
Yeah.
They still did it.
They talk about that, and your mother's right. She's right. They talk about doing it scared, like Beyonce, like we talked about earlier. He talked about doing it scared. What is Jesse Williams? He did his when he won a Webby. He said, "Scared, do it scared." That was his whole speech, because they did a 5-word speech. Scared, do it scared. Because I think it's scary to fail in public. I think that's kind of scary. But I also think it's scary to be homeless. I also think it's scary to be one paycheck away from not having anything and being scared. That's scary. That's scary. Like some cool kids not thinking I'm cool anymore, that ain't scary. That ain't scary.
Yeah. You know what? You mentioned yacht water, and we've spoken about adversity. I actually think there's some great stories that come from adversity, and so I know there's actually a story behind how you came up with the yacht water, like the name. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that? Can you share that with people?
Oh, well, it came from a tweet in years ago. I can't remember what year it was, but Lolita Taub, who is an investor, she wrote, because she does a lot of tweets that are like asking for a friend or asking for an entrepreneur. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. So she wrote, asking for a founder, what do you do if an investor ghosts you and then comes back, when you're doing well and wants to invest $100K or whatever? And I responded to that, you splash them with your yacht water. Because success is that greatest revenge, right? You splash them with your yacht water. Yeah, we get each other, yes. And so it's, because, as I'm sure they were expecting me to say something different if I was going to answer at all, which is like, you put together the great pitch and you go and you see if you can keep them on and whatever. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you should go back to the people you want to go back to. People are allowed to say no at first and come back and change their minds based on the data and the information. But also think about how people treat you. Is someone treating me poorly? Are they ghosting me? Ghosting you is a form of is a form of disrespect. And again, hungry, not thirsty. If you have to text somebody constantly for them to write you back, if you're always the one instigating the conversation, if they're always this, and then when they do talk to you, they're like, where you been? And they kind of gaslighting you. All of that, whether it's personal or business, is a form of disrespect, in my opinion. So yeah, that was just my off-the-cuff answer that ended up shipping a whole water brand.
A whole water brand started from that.
Yeah.
You know what, we'll get into some of the questions in a second.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, we spoke about the fear of public failure. And there's one more thing that I had to give to people before we get to the questions, is that limiting belief of, oh, but I don't have an audience. I need an audience first before I can sell my offer, before I can sell my product, my business. And because I don't have that yet, I can't do this thing. Mm-hmm. What is your response to that? Because I see that holding people back, of like, I'm not famous, I'm not Arlan Hamilton, I don't have a book, I'm not on magazines,
yeah.
You know?
Where did I say I started? I started, and I just did, and I went out there. Most of the people who are making a lot of money quietly don't have a large audience. That's just for sure these days. If you have any type of social presence whatsoever, if you have 30 people who follow you on Instagram, if you have any social presence on LinkedIn, any of that, then you do have an audience. You just don't consider it an audience because it's not big enough to you based on some lies that have been told to you. But if you have 100 people following you on LinkedIn, imagine how many people you have on LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. Imagine them all in one room. Put them all in one room in your mind. Would you walk away from that? Oh, I can't go out on that stage and talk to them. There's only a few of them. I can't do that. No, you say I'm going to go talk to those 30 people. That's your audience. You also know people. You've met people. There's also hand-to-hand combat. There's a one-on-one. There is striking up a conversation, because going back to the beginning of this conversation, we talked about negotiation is just a series of conversations with other humans. So I hear this so often with the people that I teach, where they will just strike up a conversation with someone and they hear the pain point that someone has and they have the solution for them, and they end up like, having a new customer. And as long as they can follow through on that, it's wonderful. So as long as you can talk to one person, you have an audience now of one, and then you can grow that. On YouTube, I had 2 books. I had been on those covers of Fast Company, Black Enterprise, etc. When I went to YouTube and really in earnest started getting new followers, those new followers had no idea about the past 10 years. They just saw me on their homepage pop up, and they said, oh, I want to click on that title or that thumbnail, and they listen, and they're like, whoa. And the reason I know this is because they tell me directly, literally word for word. They were like, oh, I didn't know you existed. Where'd you come from? Where were you 10 years ago? And I'm like, I've been here. But they found me. So on YouTube specifically, like we are like a walking billboard for YouTube, because we both had such success on there. That's been organic, and it's just work, hard work, right? You started off with just a handful of people watching you. Yeah. But what you did was you just kept posting as if millions of people were watching. That's what I noticed about you. You just kept posting consistently, but with a quality and a respect for yourself and integrity. And then one day, one video, as my brother says, the YouTube gods prevailed. And one video sent me in July of last year. Just, has like 500,000 views now. And that's in the info space. So that's the equivalent of like 5 million views if I were Mr. Beast or something, right? You can use certain tools that I did not have 10 years ago in this way, that didn't work this way 10 years ago, to your advantage. It's all a mindset shift. All of the answers is a mindset shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And before we do questions, I do want to make sure that you know you get a free copy of Arlan's Revenue Playbook, my new book that I independently produced. This is actually, I'm sure you're going to talk about that, but you get a free copy if you go to arlansrevenueplaybook.com. Just pay for shipping, and I'll send this to you. And when I'm signing books later today, I'll sign Your First Million, which is in the bookstore. And then I brought 15 of these to give out to the first 15 people in person. Okay.
Yeah. You know what? Just quickly on that point of the mindset shift. I remember we had a conversation recently with a guest, and she was so disillusioned because she had put out a piece of content and it underperformed. And she was telling me that the thing that she did, I thought this was so good. She went into ChatGPT. She said, okay, only 2,000 people watch this reel, or only 1,000 people watch this reel. ChatGPT, can you create a visual of what 1,000 people in a room looks like? And it will mock up this image of what 1,000 people is. It's like a theater.
Yeah.
And she said the second that she saw that, she was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
I am actually making progress.
Yeah. I get so excited when people, because I teach about YouTube and I teach about making money and all that. I get so excited when my students and my clients come to me and they're like, I got 30 views on my long form video. Like 30 views? Let's look how many hours that is. Let's look how,
That's a classroom.
Let's go. They didn't know you before, and then they found you, and then they listened to you for like 10 minutes. Are you serious? Like, what would we have to do 10, 20 years ago to make that happen? We'd have to get signed. We'd have to get like discovered and put on a show. Now we can just press record. I don't want to be a commercial for YouTube, but you could just press record and then upload several of those, and then just learn 3 or 4 main things about thumbnails and titles and your hook, and then potentially have thousands of watch hours. Like, it's just insane. Like, if you put any good amount of time, and who was on YouTube has a YouTube channel that they actively post on. One person, Adam, woo, yeah. Be like Adam, okay? No one else has a YouTube channel that you post on? A couple people. Okay, we're gonna do this. Who wants to do this? Who wants to be part of this challenge we're gonna do? We're gonna challenge ourselves to start a YouTube channel, free, start it, put some words on it, put a banner up, and we're gonna challenge ourselves to put one video up that's a long form. When I say long form, I mean 5 minutes or longer, and landscape. That's all we're gonna do. There are however many people here. Next year, I'm gonna say this right now, at least one person's gonna come up to me and say, I have 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I have made hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars on YouTube, not just from the AdSense, but from marketing my own company. If you have a business already, by the way, I think a lot of people are like, there may be a disconnect. If you already have a business, use YouTube to promote the business in a clever way. Talk about the pain point that you're solving in your business. Write down 3 or 4 things that your customers talk to you about or ask you about. Make a video about that. Study thumbnails and study titles and study hooks. Post a few of these videos. And just one person may watch the first few weeks. Let them, hi, new customer potentially. If you do this, but if you stop after 3 weeks because it was hard, it's so hard. Then okay, we're gonna come right back to where we are right now, right? We're gonna be right back to where we are. How many people here will do the challenge? Yes. I cannot wait. Go to my channel and post the link to your channel in one of the comments in my latest videos. I see every comment. I cannot wait for you to do it. I think for some people, it will change everything for you. I talk about it a lot in this book, by the way. So when you get the book, you can read through and just know kind of the steps too of how to do that. Because I just think wouldn't you agree? Like it's the future for so many of us.
It's the future for sure.
Yeah.
And I think we're in a great place with YouTube where like people are going viral like overnight, or they're getting that following
Yeah.
of one video.
One video.
The discoverability on YouTube is so great
It's
right now.
so great because it's in their best interest to have your videos perform well. Any video that's being watched long enough, they want to get it in front of more people because they make money too. So it's not like altruistic. It's very transactional, but it's to your benefit, I believe. And you don't count on AdSense. You'll make some money there, but don't count on that. Think about how you can directly send people. And the more clever and the more pain that you take people out of, those two things will get you far.
Yeah. We're out here sounding like an ad for YouTube.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. I don't mind at all. Like I'll advertise anything that I really believe in. But if YouTube, you want to holler at us, Callum and I are available to tour.
Yeah, double down on that.
Yeah.
You know what, and I actually wanted to add one more thing to your challenge, which is for everyone that's listening that doesn't have a business and it's like, okay, what do I post about? Mm-hmm. Choose the thing that is the easiest for you to talk about that.
If you can talk about something for 20 minutes uninterrupted and unprompted, talk about it.
We all have that.
For me, that would be General Hospital. I may start a General Hospital channel just to show you that it'll make money. Actually, I think I might do that.
Yeah. You know what? You mentioned the book. If someone's listening, they're wondering, okay, is this book for me? Should I go out and get it? Who did you create this for? What was the intention of this? Yeah.
So what I did the way that I created it answers that question. I have a lot. I had in 2024 more than 100 45-minute. There's a lot of numbers here, but more than 100 hour-long or so one-on-one conversations on Zoom with multiple people in my different parts of my ecosystem. And they record automatically. And I started looking at some of them and realizing there were so many gems and takeaways from both of us in those conversations. So I got permission from 22 of them to distill and summarize and then bring out all the best takeaways from it for like $100,000 worth that was paid to me. And many of them, what you'll find is someone who feels like they have had success in their lives in some way. Maybe they've most of them have worked for someone else, has helped that other person or company or institution do really well. They get a percentage of that, and they're happy and they're proud of that work, but they realize at some point that if they were to kind of flip that and do that work for themselves or something else for themselves, then the math would start mathing a little bit better. And they also maybe, because they have been doing something, just like with me with Backstage, because I have been doing that for so long, maybe I want to spread my wings and do something else, or do something that's related, but there's another part of it. And they find themselves a beginner again. They find themselves pivoting. There's also people who are like, I don't necessarily want to pivot, but I may have to. I may be forced to pivot because of the way the world is right now. I want to be prepared. I don't want to be caught flat-footed. How do I prepare myself with these tools? So imagine having a one-on-one with me for 60 minutes talking about your company. We get through a lot of stuff, and all of that is there. So for anybody who is in a period of change right now, a new era for themselves. And by the way, we're going to call it era, just like Taylor Swift. I'm in my ... era, I was going to be in my villain era in November, but I switched it up and I got more positive. But it's really for people who either they're beginners, and this will help them figure stuff out, like what to offer, who to offer it to, where to find the traffic to get people to actually come see it. Or they're pivoting and they feel like beginners in this space, in the space of the teach, show, do.
Yeah. You know what, before we get out of here, 12 months ago, I went to my first conference. That was actually your conference, your first Million Live. That was in LA.
Yeah.
And next year when you do it, you're doing it right here.
Yeah.
South by Southwest. Can you talk about that for people?
Absolutely. We have to go in a second, but listen. Your first Million Live. Does anybody know that? Your first Million Live? Few people. So I had 2,000 people in Los Angeles come out. Thank you for coming there if you were there. We had Issa Rae, we had TLC performed a whole concert. It was amazing. We had 3 days of amazingness in April of last year at the Peacock Theater where the Emmys are held. 2,000 people from around the world. This next year, 2026, we are bringing that to South by. So we will be partnered with South by to bring Your First Million live here. So will I see you next year? Yes. Oh, you got look behind you, everybody. Look behind you. There's this jacket.
Wow.
Yes. Okay, Levi showed out for us with those jackets last year. So we're bringing that here. It's going to be amazing, and we'll have more information about it. But can just follow me. itsaboutdamntime.com for YouTube, and I'll see some of you at the book signing. And I want to thank you so much for being here. And I want to
thank you guys.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah.